Previously in Hedge Knights, Lazarus started to smith armor for himself. Dave made some improvements to the bison pen and helped ready the farm for winter fungus. Sapo and Lazarus sowed fungal spores to keep the bison fed. And members convened for a party celebrating the first hard snow and decided to go on an adventure to mine surface iron and bring home a salix tree. Episode 15, Root of the Problem. The members of the Bison Glade were very excited about the newly proposed adventure. Judea said that she would manage to make bedrolls for all of the travelers. And Sapo mentioned that he would bake enough bread so that even in his absence they wouldn't have to resort to eating the packaged meals. Megoof was almost done with his research into the salix slab, and the next stage would be to relocate a salix tree from another glade to their own. Madsy watched on as Lazarus worked, forging himself new pieces of armor. She couldn't wait till one day she was able to make a sword for herself. The preparations, planning, the surface mining, and uprooting a salix tree to bring it home was complete, and Megoof suggested that the group search west the way he went, because likely there were other salix trees and glades in the western forest. The group prepared the bison for travel. There was still a lot left to do farming-wise, and Lazarus would have to take a break from his armor smithing in order to manage the nutrifungal farms, especially in Sapo's absence. Tangier made Lazarus promise to take care of Shellbell while she was away, and Judea made sure that she knew that Shellbell was in capable hands. Megoof offered Dave the superior bow, but Dave turned down the offer and said he had grown accustomed to the one he had, and also mentioned that he had a bit of sixth sense for danger and didn't think they'd run into any. Almost immediately, the caravaneers happened upon another glade with trees, so they decided to make camp. They had found a small glade that showed a lot of promise. Sapo tied up the bison and then started to mark trees to be cut down so that Dave could build a temporary camp. This glade looked very similar to the one back home, with small fields of clean soil and signs of many ancient battles in the past. Dave couldn't wait to construct a temporary log shelter. He had been itching to use his newly acquired construction skills, but had little opportunity to work with timber. Tangier scanned the surrounding rock outcroppings and spotted iron towards the southeast. Tangier let the other two know that she'd be just to the southeast and likely within earshot, so if they needed anything, just holler. Meanwhile, Megahoof back home worked on making sure that the bison had hay to eat, which meant that he was threshing the wheat by hand. While Tangier mined iron to build up a supply for new arms and armor, the plan for Sapo was to dig up a salix tree and then use bison to haul the tree back home, where they could replant it. Lazarus had finished smithing iron chose. It offered considerably better protection than tightly woven linen coverings he was wearing, and didn't hinder his movement at all. It was a true wonder of armor smithing. Dave, Tangier, and Sapo slept poorly, even while snug in their bedrolls. They had grown accustomed to the humdrum of the keep, crackling of fires, stirring of kitchenware, and even the chiseling of stone. The keep was a noisy place, but that noise was home, and this glade was deathly quiet, apart from the bison grunts and bellows. Sapo ventured out in search of a salix tree and spotted one just to the southwest. He dug around the roots until the tree could be hauled away by tethering it to the herd of bison. He marked the location of the fall to return back to it once Tangier finished mining. Dave realized how difficult it would be to try to mine iron in the dark and decided to pay Tangier a little visit. Dave finished constructing a tiny little log camp for the three of them, and he was proud of his progress as a constructor. Meanwhile, just south of the main keep, another meteorite of gold landed just outside of the gates. The busy work of threshing wheat helped to keep Megahoof's mind occupied from worrying about his friends out in the wilderness. He could now sympathize with the anxiety he likely caused Judea when he went off a few months back. He'd make sure not to send anyone out on their own ever again. They were lucky to find so much iron in the hills, and they planned on bringing home as much as the bison could carry. Megahoof was not particularly fond of threshing wheat by hand. Now, with a greater understanding of the labor involved, he would be careful not to request it of Sapo unless it was absolutely necessary. Tangier worked well into the night, knowing that each strike of her pick brought greater protection to her friends and family. Tangier's attitude towards mining had significantly changed over the course of the last year. Before coming to the Bison Glade, it was seen as a menial and skill-less task. The coastal atlets only used mining to expand their coastal caves. Now she viewed her work as absolutely vital, so much so that others would risk their lives just to give her the opportunity to mine efficiently. Without iron or coal, the keep would surely fall to ruin, and it was her responsibility to ensure that never happens. Dave and Sapo helped haul the iron back to the camp so that Tangier could focus only on separating the metallic ore from the sandstone as fast as she could. Sapo was impressed with the speed at which Tangier managed to mine the iron. Soon the entire outcropping would be mined up, and they would prepare for their trip back home. There are remnants of old battlefields in this section of the glade. The Katara Forest was a well-fought-over tract of land back in the original visitor invasion. Sapo grabbed the second-to-last pile of iron to bring back to the camp. and then ventured out to where he had marked the tree. Upon his arrival, he noticed the tree was missing. He knew that this was where he had uprooted it, but where could it have gone? This perplexed him, but he spotted another tree on the horizon and uprooted that one as well. This time, he would watch the tree to figure out whatever happened to it. He now had a greater understanding of Megahoof's work and what it meant to study what seemed to be the unknowable. Watching a tree was simply too boring for Sapo to endure. Try as he might, he kept falling asleep. Research and study was just not something that interested Sapo. After a rough night of sleep, Sapo watched as the tree rapidly disintegrated back into the soil, like the way rice paper would dissolve into hot water. He wondered how Megahoof managed to cut a slab out of the tree, and for that slab not to dissolve. Perhaps when the entire organism was intact, it dissolved, but when parts of it were separated, they'd endure. He wanted to test this theory and bring back a cut section of roots for Megahoof's study as a consolation reward for their adventure. Sapo spotted what seemed to be the last tree in this glade and got ready to dig up and cut a section of the roots. Sapo informed Dave and Tangier that hauling a salix tree back to the keep wasn't going to be possible. They seemed to disintegrate too rapidly to survive the trip. He told them he had taken a cutting of the roots instead, hoping that Megahoof could investigate the mysterious disintegration. The three started to pack up their camp, happy with the ridiculous amount of iron they had mined. They packed up their caravan and realized that they had left Trollalero behind. Tangier decided to split off and go back for Trollalero. The three decided to leave their shelter standing in case passing refugees needed shelter from storms. Upon returning for Tralalero, Tangier carved a note in the door of the shelter with her pick, inscribing it with, "If you're an adlet seeking shelter, travel a half day east and you'll be among friends." The snowfall from the night before made the trip back home more arduous, and weighing down the bison with a mountain's worth of iron didn't aid their swift return either. Peering out a vaulted window, both Judea and Megoof spotted a raid to the east. They called for Arelco and Lazarus to ready themselves for battle, and Megoof said, "Thank God they came from the east. Had they arrived westward, they might have found our friends out in the wilderness." The Adlets had nerves of steel and couldn't wait to see how effective the newly constructed battlements were. Madzi was told to stay inside with Bash. The visitors must have sensed that they were endangered. They stopped just short of the Arrowloop's field of view. The Merlins and Arrowloops worked perfectly, and the archers easily killed the few raiders who ingressed towards the gate. The issue was many sections of the curtain wall were being breached. Megoof signaled for the archers to go out and hunt those destroying the northern sections. Even their monument to the dead was under attack. One of the raiders gained access to the farm, and Bash and Madzi screamed for Lazarus's help. Madzi and Bash sheltered with Shellbell in the bedroom, as Lazarus and the archers swept through the keep to make sure it was all clear. Some toxic pollution had propped open the door to the main farm, and that was the main point of entry. But the raiders had been repelled, and the defenses largely held. The first of the caravan returned, Dave and Sapo hauling all of the bison in tow. They noticed the damaged walls, but Megahoof ran out and greeted them and said that everything was fine and nobody was hurt. Megahoof then wondered where Tangier was, and they said that she was just a short stint behind, hauling Trollalero in tow. Dave got to work repairing some of the broken gates. Multiple sections had been breached. Tangier greeted Lazarus with open arms and nodded her head and said that they had so much iron he would want for nothing. Sapo then shared the unfortunate news with the others. Their plan to relocate a new salix tree to the bison glade had failed. The tree had rapidly disintegrated. He did, however, tell Megahoof that he had cut a section of the salix roots for study, and that he would happily recount what he had witnessed after trying to uproot a second tree. Thank you for watching episode 15 of Hedge Knights, Root of the Problem. If you would like to support me as a content creator, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this series with your friends. If you would like to support me more directly, a link to Patreon can be found in the description of the video, as well as a link to Discord if you'd like to join my gaming community. Thank you so very much for watching. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel. Without all of you, I wouldn't be able to do this, so thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode. Farewell, my fellow adlets,